Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our wrestling podcast. So, without further ado, the following podcast is scheduled for 2 falls. And today's topic, the Legacy of the NWO, Part 1.
Welcome to the O.W.P. This is our wrestling podcast. This is Dave along with Jess.
I'm not doing this.
Cuz.
Hey, yo.
And Craig.
For life.
For life. Bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. And now on to our topic today, the history of the NWO. Hit us up on Instagram at O.W.P 2019. Click on Linktree. You can find us on several platforms, including Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Podcast. And don't forget, we are now part of the WrestleHub family, all about wrestling podcast. Catch them and us at the WrestleHub on YouTube and Instagram. What's up, guys?
Legacies make me so tired. They make me tired. I'm tired already.
Why are you
There's
tired?
so much. There's so much in a Legacy. So much. And I don't want to miss anything. And I know I'm going to. And I hate it. And I thought this one would be easy when I was typing up the notes for this. I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. Not as in like,
so much.
But yeah, and I just got like to page 2 or 3. And I was like, there's so much shit like that I cannot forget in here. And like, yeah, it was very fatiguing. Very fatiguing. Mm-hmm. Why are we hearing?
What is that? Well, that just made it even more complicated.
Yeah, Cuz is messing around with sound stuff on us.
Yeah, well, we're trying to get better every week. We'll see, but we will stumble along the way, and that's totally fine. So,
yeah, by getting better, we mean pumping Spanish music and dialogue into our podcast.
Who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love it? So, all right, let's just jump right in if you guys are good to go. By the way, we're talking about the NWO right now, which everybody thinks is not only one of the greatest factions to ever occur, totally changing wrestling, which is absolutely true. I think some people believe that this was original, like this had never happened before. And when we get into the first part of it where we say the seeds are planted, it's not really true, because in April of 96, WCW Executive VP at the time, that was his title, Eric Bischoff, attended a New Japan Pro Wrestling event where the focus point was a rival promotion challenging for the New Japan Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. He then got the idea for Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, who were wrapping up their WWF contracts to come work for him at WCW, to be viewed as invaders from another company that were attempting to take over WCW. That's where he got the idea. What say you guys?
Yeah, he's open about it. He said that he got the idea from a New Japan show, and he wanted to do something different with Hall and Nash because he couldn't obviously use Razor Ramon. He couldn't use Diesel. He knew that. And he didn't want to go back to their old gimmicks, of the Diamond Stud or the... Can you imagine if that was just a grand idea?
Vinny Vegas?
The return of Vinny Vegas next week on Nitro.
You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that would have just been nuts. Or the return of Oz. But so he wanted something different with them. He saw that idea at a Japan show. WCW always had a pretty good relationship with New Japan, so he just kind of saw that, and he was like, why don't I do that? I'm having 2 guys come over from the WWF that they have a lot of name value, as Diesel and Ramon, however, but their faces are super, recognizable.
Jess, yeah. I thought we had an agreement we would never talk about Oz when I'm taking a drink of alcohol.
Well,
would never do that.
Oz is real, and his legacy is strong. After the Legacy of Mongo, we're absolutely doing Legacy of Oz. The Legacy of Oz is happening. I don't care what anybody says as well. So he got basically, that was the germ of the idea. He saw that and he was like, I got to do something with these guys. And I need to kind of make it real. I think Bischoff, Shawn and Triple H always talk about how they were always beating up Vince in the back. Your stuff's outdated. It has to be more realistic. These guys, we're going to get into it here. WCW was the first to breach a lot of the stuff. You know, we give revisionist history, right? The company that won the war was the WWF and or WWE, whatever you want to call them. So they can kind of make the history documentaries on the network, and they sort of steer the narrative to the way they want you to see it. But really, we lived it pretty much. Everyone on this podcast lived it, and to see this, it was a different story. When WCW first started doing this, they changed everything, and I don't think they get enough credit. I really don't. It's more than just a mention here and there, or a DVD set, the rise and fall of WCW, or whatever, whatever WWE wants to produce and put out. They were really important. We're going to get into it here. This changed everything from the boring, character-driven stuff from the 80s that was into the 90s that wouldn't die, because all the promoters didn't know wrestling was changing, even though the crowd was telling them, whether it was a lack of crowd or whether it was low ratings or whatever. They were trying to tell everybody this shit sucks. That's why ECW got so big, because people were like, this shit sucks on the big programs, on the big promotions. We want something more real or with a bite to it. That's what I really think that the beginning stages here, and I'm glad we're covering it, even though I'm very fatigued. Because I think the NWO deserves so much more credit. They always get compared right away with the Horsemen, and I don't think that's fair. The Horsemen was a faction that was booked within a promotion. The NWO legitly was booked to take over a promotion and be bigger than a promotion. That's the major difference between the two.
Wow. Japanese have a whole different style. They present the product much more realistically. The audience reacts to it much more realistically. The media treats it much differently than they do in the United States. How can I come up with a storyline that allows our product to achieve some of those same things? That was really the genesis of the NWO storyline, if you will, with regard to my experience in Japan.
That was the end of my sentence.
I'm sorry. I was hoping someone else would jump in. I'm like, that's what would add to that. Well, let's just jump. We will jump into the next segment on an episode of Monday Nitro. I almost said Monday Night Raw. On an episode of Monday Nitro on May 27th of 96, Scott Hall would actually shock the wrestling world by coming into the ring from the crowd and disrupting a scheduled match. The difference here was that unlike any other wrestler that had jumped ship in the past, Bischoff was very specific, as Jess had just recently said, not having Hall look like just another wrestler that had come from the other promotion. This is literally, and we're watching the video, I love it, because of Scott Hall jumping over, and he looks like the owner of Levi Strauss right now. He's just Denim Dan.
He definitely owns stock in them, for sure.
Yeah, it's great. And, I don't want to jump too far into it, but this is why I think people believe they can just walk into a wrestling ring and not get their ass kicked, which happened later down the line where regular people would try to jump in on these promotions and just, I think Scott Hall had a few boots to those guys, but he literally walks in and gets a microphone. Like, what the fuck is that? This is totally different from anything we've ever seen.
This was great.
And people like us, we know who that guy is. What the hell's going on, right? So, sorry, guys, take it away.
This was great because at this time, I was at the age where I played with little action figures, and I had like little X-Men and Spider-Man and all these action figures from different comic books and everything. But I had a wrestling little WWF mock wrestling or WWE toy wrestling ring, and I would as a little kid reenact the little shows and wrestle, make them wrestle. And I remember watching WCW. I would do it while WCW was on, and then WF Rock, Warzone would come on after that. I remember playing with my action figures as a kid and watching Scott Hall walk through the crowd, and my jaw dropped to the floor. It was kind of like when Brock beat Undertaker, the reactions in the crowd. That was my reaction. I'm just sitting there because I'm just thinking like, I just saw Razor Ramon on WWF TV. Like, and this shit was fucking crazy,
TV,
dude. Or I saw him on WWF recently, and then him show up here. That shit was shocking even as a kid watching that, not really, getting everything. It was crazy just to see this. This sight will forever just be burned in my memory.
The motor runs him down. What are you talking about?
Look here.
Well, what the hell?
Wait a minute.
Somebody give me a mic. Give me a mic. What's with this?
Wait, we need security here. I have no idea.
Hey.
Wait a minute. I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
You people.
What's with him?
You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here.
Are we going to get security here?
Where is Billionaire Ted? Where is the Nacho Man? That punk can't even in the build me. I go wherever I want, whenever I want. And where is Scheme Gene? Cause I got a scoop for you. When that Ken doll lookalike, when that weatherman wannabe comes out here later tonight, I got a challenge for him, for Billionaire Ted, for the Nacho Man, and for anybody else in WCW. Hey, you want to go to war? You want a war? You're going to get one.
Yeah, and despite the denim and the way he's trying to look different, I think what became a problem with the lawsuit and then the subsequent legal stuff by WWF was the fact that he did grease his hair right down the middle and had the toothpick. And how close was he trying to get to the bad guy?
But let me interject here because Bischoff actually brought it up. The Diamond Stud carried a toothpick. The Diamond Stud, when he was Diamond Stud in WCW before, carried a toothpick in his ear and flicked it at people. And
for real?
So
okay.
Bischoff
That's
on his
true.
podcast was like, I was more pissed that they were trying to sue me for something that we actually did before, but they were trying to claim that, nope, Razor Ramon's the only one that's done that. It's like, actually, no, Diamond Stud did it, and he did his hair the same way, but people wanted to forget that in WWF. I'll touch on it. I think I touched on it later here in the notes. They were so pissed off that WCW hit something that was way more creative than that they were doing and had a reality bite to it. I think Vince was pissed because he's like, somebody fucking undercut me. This is a great storyline.
He's hoping a cease and desist would get them scared, but they weren't scared of shit right now.
And my big thing here, and I don't want to dwell on this too much here, the Hall thing, as important as it is, the crowd is fucking shocked silent in a good way. Yes. I have watched this clip.
I was going to say in a good way.
When I watch this clip back, I don't even listen to him anymore. I just watch them, and I'm like, man, they were like standing on their feet.
Look at them behind them.
Yeah, they're standing on their feet and they're staring at him. They know exactly who he is. But every time, somebody would jump ship from a promotion before, it was like, a couple weeks before they debut, it would be like, coming soon back to WCW, the Dragon, Ricky Steamboat. And then he would debut 2 weeks later and you would know, oh, he just came from WWF or whatever. But this was super different. He didn't come down the rampway. He didn't already have music. He came in from the crowd and jumped in and was just raw with it. And he was like, you guys don't know why I'm here. I'm here because this is like a joke. I'm from another organization that's way more glitzy and glamoury than here. And where's your jokes? Where's your Nacho Mans? Where's your Hucksters? Where are these guys? Like that everyone keeps talking about.
It's like WCW.
Yeah, and that was the first one. He's like WCW. It was like a. Bischoff allowed him to make fun of the promotion. Bischoff allowed him. You got to give Bischoff credit back here because he was like, we have to do something just to stand out and be different. Bischoff was all about turning a profit here. As everybody knows, 1995 was the first year since 1988 when Turner bought the Crockett Promotions that they turned a profit. They lost every year. And under Bischoff, he took over in 93, started having his influence be felt. And then by 95, that was the first profitable year that Bischoff turned for the first time ever since Turner Broadcasting owned the company. It's crazy.
A profound quote for me, even as a kid, because I just remember going to school and hearing the words ring in my head. I go wherever I want, whenever I want. That just made it, I don't know, there's something about that line right there that just made it seem like, wow, this is a big deal. These guys are at the time, Scott Hall, he came from WWF. And he just told you that he just walked on WCW like it was nothing, and it just made it so real, man. Like, I don't know, there's just something so crazy about it. It was amazing.
Yep. And after 2 weeks of Scott Hall issuing challenges to Eric Bischoff to choose his best 3 guys, Bischoff began to ask Hall, well, who are you guys? Hall would say that he had a big man and a medium-sized man waiting in the wings to be his partner. And then on June 10th of 96, Kevin Nash comes, into the woodwork at the end of Nitro to reveal himself as he's the big man. So who's the medium-sized man, right? I find it fascinating, by the way, that Scott Hall's the little man. Scott Hall's a big son of a bitch, but
God damn it.
I just think that's funny. Like, you're the little man?
It's almost bigger than the medium man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. I just think that's fascinating, but it's okay. Bischoff would declare at the upcoming Great American Bash pay-per-view, he would reveal WCW's 3 guys as long as Hall and Nash revealed their third man at that time. Right? Anything you guys want to add to that? Sorry.
Nope, because I think the next thing that you're going to hit, which is the Bash, is another major fucking moment that a lot of people don't give credit for WCW to. I'll let you say it, but ECW had already been doing some violent stuff and some edgy stuff, a couple years before this. But this is the first time that a major promotion just said, "Fuck it, let's just do it." And you'll read here what that moment was, and I'll talk about it. But
sure,
they're getting ready to do one of the biggest things that nobody talks about anymore, and because we see it all the time now, I think, where they break that wall. So go ahead.
Yeah. So at the 1996 Great American Bash, Hall and Nash were brought out to the entrance stage for an interview with Bischoff to reveal their third man. Bischoff would in return reveal his 3 guys that he wants to put out there. On an interesting note, Eric Bischoff would specifically ask Hall and Nash if they worked for the WWF. I know where you're going. This is so interesting. They immediately said no. This was due to a pending lawsuit against WCW filed by the WWF. In it, they claimed that WCW was trying to confuse audiences by hinting that Hall and Nash were invading WCW on behalf of the WWF.
And there was a lot of other stuff too. It was the character ripoffs, which Nash didn't act any different. Nash didn't come out putting his fist in the air or, you know what I mean? So they just picked on Hall because Hall had that quote unquote accent still. Like Craig said, he had his hair slicked back. He had the toothpicks in his ear. So it's like Hall was trying to kind of tap into the Razor Ramon stuff a little bit just to give people kind of that remnants of, that used to be Razor Ramon. But the big thing is that they were alluding a lot before this that they were coming from another organization. Everybody knew where they came from. So Vince, again, I truly believe he's like, fuck, this is good. Fuck them. Like, just let's start throwing cease and desist at them because I believe Vince was threatened. I believe Vince was threatened at this. Like, this shit's good and we got to stop him. Anything we can do. So Bischoff's balls, by the way, were so fucking big here because Bischoff said, okay, here's the deal. We're going to go out there and I'm going to fucking flat out ask you, like on WCW television, do you work for the WWF? What the fuck? Like that's balls of steel. Like, because in Vince's mind, if Bischoff will never ask that question because that'll kill the angle. But Bischoff knew it's not going to kill the angle. I have more shit to do. I have more stuff that I'm going to involve these guys in. It's going to be a different kind of thing. So right away, it showed that the NWO angle, which they weren't even the NWO yet, had more legs than just that. It was more than just, I'm going to bring you over and I'm going to try to remind the crowd that you used to be Diesel and you used to be Ramon. No, it was so right away, I cannot compliment Bischoff enough for getting them out there on a fucking pay-per-view on Great American Bash and being like, before we get started, I want to ask you a question. Do you work for the WWF? No. All right. Anyway, so you guys tell me your fucking guys. Like, it was just a fuck you to Vince. It was a fuck you to everybody going like, yeah, is that your fucking stance? You think that I'm going to back down just because you think I'm copying Diesel? That's not even what I'm doing here. So here, let's just get the shit out of the way. It was amazing. We're not even to the part yet with the big deal at the end of the segment that happens. But like,
I love this segment. I mean, you guys chime in at any time, interrupt me, please. But with that out of the way, as Jess had said, Bischoff would claim that he's not ready to reveal his 3 guys. He would the next night on Nitro. He would say, yeah, I'll tell you my 3 guys then. This obviously pisses off Hall. He punches Bischoff in the stomach, and Nash would powerbomb him off of the stage through a table set on the arena floor. It looks like it's part of the stage. It's actually very well done when you look at the playback. And because thank you for bringing that up. It looks great. But this was the first time a regular ring announcer was subject to that kind of attack. This is when I watched this, I saw it like the rest of you guys. I was like, what the hell is going on right now? This is not normal. Like this had so many people glued, and as Jess always talks about, you got to get the casual fan. This was getting the casual fan right at this moment, and we haven't even taken off yet. We're just on the landing strip right now.
The immortal Huck.
Jesus,
you tell billionaire Ted to break out the money and get anybody you can because the big man and the medium-sized man and our surprise buddy are gonna carve them up.
I want to ask you a question right now. He's had his say.
Who are they, man? Who are they?
I can't tell you. I'll tell you tomorrow night on Nitro. That's the.
You can't tell us. You don't jack us around. Don't jack.
Oh, for Christ!
Whoa! What are they doing? Security!
Get up there right now.
Get
Somebody
security
pick him
up
up.
there! Unbelievable!
Please.
Craig, what do you think about this madness?
Yeah, I mean, WCW, I think, and for all the years, didn't do a lot of stuff right compared to how brilliant and how sharp WWE's production and storylines and angles and the way they just thought and executed things were. But from the very beginning here, and even the kind of this moment, and I know just think you're going to talk about the first time an on-air talent was kind of attacked and breaking that wall, but just in general, like how they managed to convey how kind of real this was in the first couple of months, like how like holy shit it was, and you were kind of wavering between the line of is this real or not, or what's really happening. They executed this to perfection, where they didn't do it for very long, but like this moment in the first couple of months, there was nothing like it, and it holds up as some of the best stuff today.
And Bischoff wasn't, when you say Eric Bischoff, you think of the character. He was a B team announcer here. Like he was the executive vice president in the background. He was really important in the background, which nobody knew yet here. Way before the Mr. McMahon character, like Bischoff was working on being in front of the camera, which would be his kind of undoing years later. But I mean, like you never seen anything like this before. And watching him get punched in the stomach and then like it was so real. And it was like, wow, like these guys are serious. It immediately erased the Hall or the Diesel and the Ramon gimmick because they were so cartoony. These were two guys that were here to be violent and they were here to do something. That's the joke that Bischoff knew Vince didn't get. Oh, you want to play games and file lawsuits against me because, you think the whole basis of this is me just copying Ramon and Diesel and trying to elude that they still work for the WWF. It's so much deeper than that.
There's also a really small thing to talk about this too, Jess. I mean, I know it's maybe obvious now, but when you put two wrestlers in the ring together, it takes away from what they really are and what they do and how much they work and how big they are. When you put Bischoff against these two guys, I don't think you don't realize until that moment, like, God, these are some big sons of bitches. And they just destroyed a regular dude through a table up, basically slammed him down about 10 feet into a table like it was nothing. Like it was absolutely nothing. And you look at that back and you're like, wow, this is intense. This is the most real I could ever see it getting. I keep watching over and over, and Bischoff's not a small guy. I mean, Bischoff, worked out. Bischoff wasn't he like a
karate black belt? Yeah.
Or Kung Fu?
He did some tournaments.
But like Nash and Hall are just, they're massive. And they just pick him up like it's a piece of paper and throw him in.
Don't you remember what Nash says? Read the adjective. Yeah. We didn't come to play.
We didn't come to play.
The adjective, by the way.
Not the verb. Everything about it. Yeah, I'm with you. I get it. We curse enough on this show, But in the weeks building to Bash at the Beach pay-per-view, Hall and Nash would continue to invade the arena throughout the crowd, even showing that they actually bought a ticket to security so they could not be kicked out of the show.
That's another good line from Nash. We came to see the big boys play when they kick him out. I love it.
Yeah. That kind of stuff is just, we bought a ticket. We have a right to be here. And you look at the announcers, you look at the security, and everyone's like, what do we do? And it was showing that utmost confusion because they're like, hey, we bought a ticket. You can't make us leave. We're not interfering. We're just sitting in the front row. What's the problem? And eventually, obviously, they would interfere and all those items. But, I mean, just great stuff. This is the kind of things you would see Hall and Nash just in the crowd with a ticket. You're like, what are they going to do? What's going to happen? Just phenomenal stuff. Finally, ECW's three guys were revealed. It's Savage, Sting, and Luger would be the three guys to represent WCW at Bash at the Beach. they would actually face Hall and Nash and whoever that third man is, right? And that's actually at 96. Hall and Nash said their third guy would be revealed at the actual pay-per-view. A little side note, on June 17th, 96, Nitro actually beat Raw in the ratings here. It's a 3.4 to a 2.3. And then that's where, if anybody listens to Bischoff, the whole 83 weeks, this is where 83 weeks of consecutive WCW victories and ratings would take place from June 17th, 96 on, right?
Yeah, I never knew that streak started 3 weeks before Bass at the Beach. That's really fascinating.
Yeah,
but,
it started.
It's amazing, right?
And they were actually beating WWF a little bit more often than not. Even before Hall debuted, they were starting to with the cruiserweights
off, right?
Yeah, the Nitro was just looking fresher, and they would light the building up more. The cruiserweights were a big deal. They were a really big deal while I turned over to Nitro, even before Hall even debuted. So yeah, they were starting to figure it out then here too. But this storyline, this was the fuel that rocketed them into the stratosphere for sure.
Yeah, and I know we're talking about NWO. This is the basis of it, but to Jess's point, the cruiserweight division here might have been the best you've ever seen in WCW at this time frame, and that's a big part of their success for ratings as well. You don't want to discourage that at all. The cruiserweights in WCW at this time might have been the best ever. Some of the talent that comes out of it is the best ever. Even on an individual level. So
yeah, I mean, I can do without all the NWA, the last hour of Nitro every week, but like what I lived for is that even right before Bash at the Beach and then beyond, and the whole apex of NWO was that kind of almost like the opener or all those cruiserweight matches in the first hour and a half of Malenko, Mysterio, Guerrero, and
Benoit. Yeah,
my God, I mean, change the biz.
So much ridiculous talent in there. Just putting on a show, and then, like you said, then you watch the soap opera at the last hour, right? So that's really what it was. So I find this fascinating. How Jess, you just kind of nonchalantly write this. And I know we've seen it a million times, but I'm just going to read it as you wrote it. On July 7th of 1996, Bash at the Beach, Hulk Hogan would come down to the ring and reveal himself to be the third man. Hulk Hogan could arguably the best promo of his career after the match. The three were showered in trash thrown by the fans. I'm trying to make that as real as I possibly can. And it is like, I mean, I know just you're writing it, and I know, I think even as you hear it, it doesn't do justice to the moment. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Hogan is in the building.
You damn right he is.
Go get him, Hulkster.
Yeah, but whose side is he on?
What are you talking about?
Whose side is he on?
What are you talking about?
Yes, sir.
Get him, Hogan. Go get him, baby.
Come on and get some of this now.
Who's bad now, boys?
Hulk Hogan arrived. Hulk.
What is he doing?
My God.
Is he the third man?
He's the third man.
What the hell is going on here?
Hulk Hogan has betrayed WCW. He is the third man.
Look at
this picture. Oh, my God.
What the hell is going on?
Oh, my God.
Are you kidding me?
Probably the lowest shot ever given to professional wrestling. That man did right there, Hulk Hogan.
We've talked about it. Everyone's talked about it, but like it was the difference between this just being a really good angle, which I think without Hogan, and just to say it out loud,
it was still a good angle.
Sting was arguably going to be the first choice as the heel and the third member. But what a lot of people don't think is like, when you say that now, people think of just him taking Hogan's place and doing everything Hogan did for the next 3 years. That would not have been the Sting path. I think it would have been more, I don't think Sting would have been the leader. I think it would have been more of like three guys doing shit, which would have been interesting and still would have been compelling, these invaders, and then Sting, the inside guy, betraying them.
Completely different.
But what Hogan did when Hogan came down, and why I'm glad it was him, is because it the name value that he had, Bischoff was searching since 1994 to unlock that magic for WCW. And it happened here and there. And when Hulk first came in, it spiked buy rates and spiked ratings and blah, blah, blah. But then it went back to 95 was just a Hogan getting booed, Hogan doing the same yellow and red bullshit, Hogan doing all the same stuff.
Yeah.
Bischoff
not a sustainable model.
Bischoff is like, dude, I know I fucking brought this guy over here for a reason. What lock do I need to unlock to unleash that magic again? You know, what do I do? Well, this was fucking it. And nobody knew this. I mean, it was so back and forth on the back. People have written books and done shoot interviews. They had to fucking convince Hogan. They actually, I want to say, Kevin Sullivan had Hulk stay at his house in a room the night before this pay-per-view and didn't let him talk to. This is before cell phones were a thing, really. I mean, the cell phones existed, but you didn't have a cell phone just handy. So he prohibited anybody from calling Hogan because Hogan was so on the fence. They did not want someone calling Hogan and being like, do not do it. Do not fucking turn heel. You'll kill your career. Because Hogan was already scared about it. I lose all my merchandise, brother. I'll lose all blah, blah. I can't do it.
There was no heel merchandise.
Yeah, I'm an American hero. I'm an American hero. I can't do this. You'll kill my career. So they actually locked him up at Kevin Sullivan's house the night before.
You think you put him in the Dungeon of Doom and gave him some shrooms and fucking just put him?
Yeah, oh my god.
So think about that now, right? Like Stone Cold could be a heel. Robert Roode could be a heel, and I'll still buy a shirt. That did not happen until right here in '96, right? To your point.
NWO.
Yeah, there was no heel merchandise market here. There's not at all.
Yeah.
Isn't there a story where he kicks Bischoff out of his
insane.
house for presenting it to him at first? Right?
Yes. Like when they first went, Hogan just said, I don't want any part of it. Yeah. And Bischoff went to Hogan's house to talk to him about it. Hogan thought, like, is he going to fucking tell me he's not going to renew my contract or some shit? Like, what's going on? So Bischoff gets to Hogan's house and just says, I want to turn you heel. And I don't think Bischoff even had the whole thing yet, like it visioned out the way he wanted. And Hulk was like, no way, get out of here with that shit. Like, I don't even want to talk about that. That's not on the table.
Get out of here, brother.
So I heard something to the effect, and I'd love to get your point, Jess, on which way did it go?
Brother.
Like chicken or egg? Like Sting wasn't the original choice. It was Hogan was always the first choice, but Sting was definitely a B person if Hogan turned it down
because in the storyline
he had creative control.
Yeah,
and so
in
if he did back out,
and in the storyline, they're thinking, okay, like. If Hulk says no, who's the next logical person? Someone that is WCW homegrown should be the logical person. If you're not going to go with the guy who made the competition the biggest thing since sliced bread, you're going to go towards the guy who's working on the inside, and he's the mole, he's the betrayal. And so I think that was just, they were said in the same breath, with Hulk being kind of the guy that they wanted because of his contract value and his name value and everything. But when Hogan said no, they were going to go with Sting. And my point with that is, I know we're trying to keep this in a certain time frame, but like to me, it's crazy because he doesn't do the same things that Hulk does. Does that make any sense? Like everything that Hulk did after this point was because Hulk Hogan was who he was. And yes, he became Hollywood Hogan. He changed his look and painted the beard on to piss people off and did all that stuff. But like a Sting NWO member would have been very different than what Hulk ever did. I truly believe, and think about how the ramifications on the entire wrestling world. He would not have had the same ripple in the pond that Hulk did when he turned heel. It would have been a big deal, but I don't think it would have been like mainstream media coverage like Hulk garnered. But it would have been a cool faction. It would have been a really cool faction. Cool. And I think after, so think about all that. WWF would have never been put with their backs against the wall for Vince to finally be like, I don't fucking know what to do anymore. You guys come up with your own shit. And then fucking,
but at the same time, like
Austin,
at the same time, who better to be the babyface than the WCW loyal Sting to be fighting that faction?
No, you're right. Then, you're 100% right.
And then
that's
Hogan, I mean, I know you said like the guy that created the company, but just that quote, who better, or I know that company better than anybody, brother. Like, just like who better than Hogan? Like, not even just because his name, but like he was the guy from up north, the main guy from up north that knew that company better than anybody. So that was like all of it.
No, and that's another great point because so think about it. Let's fantasy book, and you know how much I hate that shit. So let's say Sting is the guy, right? He forms the thing with Hall and Nash or whatever. What would Hogan have done? come out in the same yellow and a red and fucking no-sold all their moves, and then 3 months later they gimmick's dead.
And still be,
you know what I mean?
heel,
Like,
kind of.
Because
Like, you're a heel,
you know what I mean? Like that would have Hogan would have been the face. What? Like Hogan up in the rafters being lowered down.
Oh, imagine brother.
Hogan
brother,
painted
brother,
it with as the
brother,
crow
brother,
lowering down.
brother, coming out.
So I just it's funny that. Of course, we look back, and of course, this makes the most sense.
I'm the Crow brother.
But behind the scenes, I think it's important behind the scenes to notice that Sting was kind of mentioned in the same breath, and it does make sense. But the ripple does not happen without this moment.
It's not the same.
Does not happen without Hogan.
And I think what Sting would do, Sting wouldn't stand out like Hogan did and kind of take control of the whole thing.
Right.
The way even on
that
that first appearance after Bash of the Beach on that Nitro, he's almost pointing at Hall and Nash and telling them what to do and establishing himself as the guy, where Sting probably would have been
just one of the three.
Probably one of the three, like 30% of the work. Like, Boo, you're this united front, like Hogan being Hogan and the reason why he is. And I'm not knocking him at all. He's Hogan. He's like, this is about me. And you are kind of my lieges. You do what I say. I am the definitive leader. And it all went from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed. And then next night on Nitro, the whole show revolved around the shock of Hulk Hogan churning heel and betraying WCW. Before I get into it, there was somebody talking about the greatest lines in a pay-per-view ever. And the guy on Twitter said, mine was, "You go to hell, Hulk Hogan. You go straight to hell."
Yeah, Tony Schiavone. Yeah.
And that's how they closed out Bash of the Beach. So obviously they're bringing that into WCW on Nitro the next night. Hogan would appear on Nitro for the first time as Hollywood Hulk Hogan on July 15th, 96, and challenge the Giant for the WCW World title at the upcoming pay-per-view Hog Wild. Well, that's a fantastic fucking name, isn't it?
What a financial success the Hog Wild thing was.
Yeah. Yeah. On the 29th of July in 96 episode of Nitro, Hall and Nash would attack wrestlers in the back stage area with baseball bats. The baseball bats aren't even the biggest portion of the story.
You know what it is.
And I told Jess, I said you have this in the. I told Jess you have this in the notes, right? Because if you don't, it's a problem for me. Because when I think of the NWO, it always goes back to this segment, and I can't explain why that is. Because you think it'd be Hogan, but it's not. But, this venue is outdoors. It's at Disney World in Florida. The neighboring residents thought there was actual gang fight going on. And several calls were actually made by local authorities. They're fighting outside of the production truck. And literally, Nash grabs Mysterio and lawn darts him into the fucking production trailer. It is unbelievable what you're seeing. Because has it up now, and I'm still like, when I watch it, I'm like, oh my gosh, amazing. I'm like, how did the heck did they even do that? And they just walk away, get in their cars and drive off. You're like, this is chaos, and it's funny. It's chaos that they wanted you to see. This is phenomenal segments here, right? I mean, it's crazy.
Everybody's left the ring here, and there's Rey Mysterio.
Hey, he dove up.
That's Rey Mysterio. There's the Cruiserweight Champion, Rey Mysterio. Oh, no! Oh, head first into the trailer in the back.
He threw him like he was a dart.
It's one of the most memorable segments in Nitro history. Like, everybody talks about the lawn dart segment. Everybody calls it the lawn dart.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like Mysterio jumps. It's an office. If you've ever been on a construction site, it's just it's a mobile trailer that they bring in, and then they push like a deck up against it so you can climb up the stairs and go in the door of the office. So it's like a construction trailer. And Rey Mysterio comes out, because I don't know what he was doing in there, doing pee or something. He comes out. He's like, "What's going on?" He gets up on the stair, like the railway for the stairs, jumps off onto Nash. Nash catches him in a crossbody fashion, and then puts him over his shoulder and throws him straight into the side of the trailer. It's cool shit, man. I mean, you know, the guy's 105 pounds, Rey Mysterio, but still, like, the visual everyone talks about to this day.
It's because like they kept it for multiple segments. They kept it realistic, like before the NXT invasion. They just kind of kept rolling with it. The announcers kind of kept like no selling it or almost in silence. It was just, it had the realism of this shit might be happening. And it's very scary, and they don't like what they're going to do now. Like, it just had that little oomph and like that X factor of it's crossing the line. I'm not sure what's going on.
And
It
what
was
happened to
perfect.
WCW, right? We're going to talk about them unwinding at the end or whatever, but like the details that they would do here was fantastic. You know, they bring them back. Okay, the entire WCW locker room by this point knows that these three cocksuckers, we are not going to let them back here. But then when it shoots to the back, they actually have a match in Nitro. The main event of Nitro, I think, was a 6-man that night. So 6 of their biggest stars are in the ring. Jimmy Hart comes running out and starts yelling at them. Out of character, and like the hard camera didn't pick them up at first. It was like this, they played it as like this crazy, the production truck didn't even know what was going on, you know, because it's real. And so Jimmy Hart comes out there and he's like, you got to come back, something bad's happened. So the 6 main, you know, badass guys, I think it was the Horsemen against like Sting and a couple other people, like they're like, what? And then they all break character on purpose. And this heel manager, Jimmy Hart, they all talk to like a person. What do you mean? What's going on? Okay, we're coming back with you. And they all go back into the back, and then that's when you see people already laying around and Hall and Nash standing with baseball bats. And I'm like, that's how you fucking even the odds. And then Rey Mysterio jumped off. They throw him in the trailer. Like Dave said, they get in the car and they drive away. And then now the people who were in there, like in the ring, come back to this chaos. They have the ambulances come in and they have all this stuff. They take them out and they put people in neck braces and carry them off on stretchers. And it was just this. The neighbors thought there was a gang fight happening, like so they called the cops.
Yeah, they literally called 911. They had to straighten it out with the cops. Like, no, it's a show. I swear to God, it's a show.
If you didn't live through this point, you didn't really see, you know, for all the shit that we say about WCW, and they've done some dumb stuff, man, before this and after this, unfortunately for them, that will lead to their demise. Like they did everything here. These first couple of months with the NWO formation was done so well. And it captured everyone to where people started turning over to this program. People started treating this as the #1 wrestling promotion in the US. So many, I mean, this just opened so many doors for them. This angle, this NWO cannot be understated. It saved this company literally and then changed the United States wrestling landscape for years to come. Whether it's guaranteed contracts, whether it's a realistic characters, whatever you want to say, they changed everything long before Mr. McMahon, long before Stone Cold, everything. They did it. They did it their own way. They made it real. This is all history. I mean, everything we're talking about, especially these first 3 months, is just the details are amazing. Macho Man jumping on top of the fucking limo here.
I remember that too. I mean, yeah, it's fucking great.
Them driving off with Macho Man driving on top of the limo trying to get into the sunroof.
You got Elizabeth.
This cool shit, man. Like, just cool stuff. I'm gonna fucking get you. You fuck Elizabeth. Yeah. So yeah, like you can't. Again, I don't want to ramble on, but you cannot understate this. Like this is just fucking good shit, man. Good shit.
They carry this momentum in at Hog Wild pay-per-view on August 10th. Hollywood Hogan would defeat the Giant to win his second WCW World Title, and then 2 weeks later, Ted DiBiase would be revealed as the 4th member of the NWO. Right. He would be named Trillionaire Ted, and was the manager, spokesperson for the group. On September 2nd, episode of Nitro.
That was the first of a lot of disappointments to come in the NWO angle. Yeah,
true.
Yeah, and then the Giant would become the 5th member. You know, I kind of wish that the Giant would be the guy to fight against
so
the whole
boring.
Time. Didn't work out.
Well, if the Giant was at number 5, number 6 wouldn't literally have the name 6. So I guess you kind of.
That's true.
You gotta tit for tat. What would we call him? 5?
I'm sorry, but even now, 5. Like I mean, of course now, like when I hear when someone's gonna fight a mystery opponent and you hear where, I just groan. And even here, I'm like, well, of course, you suck.
Actually, and so Big Show was a little. I would say I would have to give him credit. He's a little cooler here.
Yes, he is.
But,
he is.
Your feeling of that, I agree. I totally agree with that, cuz. And it's all the way WWE booked him all of these years. That's why Big Show is groaned. When his music hits, it's all fuck. Like it's not like wow. It's all fuck me. Like
even just when I hear this now that we talked about this, I'm like, of course, 5th member. Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, there is a good scene though. No, there is a building up to the match. I don't know if you guys remember. I remember this vividly. Where like NWO's laying waste to people, and then Big Show is standing behind Hogan, and Hogan backs up, and he feels like this big imposing figure behind him, and just the facial expressions Hogan makes, where he like kind of does a side look left, look right, and then he kind of does a big swallow like he's afraid to turn around, and he turns around, Big Show's right there, and he fucking scares the shit out. Hogan's fucking great at facial expressions.
Well, you get quality performances from the greatest wrestler of all time, cuz. I don't know what else you would expect. You know what I'm saying?
No,
right.
It's because Austin wasn't a big
Small side note, the August 26th and September 2nd Nitros would run unopposed, and both episodes would reveal a 4.0 rating plus. That's the first
fucking
time
Westminster Dog Show, motherfuckers.
Right?
The real NWO professional wrestling, brother.
So think about
they
that,
hadn't reached
right?
their height since the debut in '95, right?
Yeah, so think about that for a second. I don't want to harp on this, but at the same time, like, Monday Nitro was the first program to go over 4.0. That's fucking nuts. Like 4 million households were watching Monday Nitro because of this angle. They had swelled up to that big. That's insanity. And for cable rating back here, we got used to Breaking Bad doing like 10 million, Walking Dead doing 12, but that wasn't until years later where you could, so many different things you could stream and more of those. Back here in 1996, not a lot of people did have cable, but not everyone did.
You may have to go to a friend's house
stuff.
to watch it,
Yeah, you had to go to a friend's house and stuff. So 4 million households were watching WCW when WWF for these 2 weeks were preempted. And it's like, wow, like it's not only is the angle just paying off, but think of, back at fucking Mongo, yeah.
So you see woman and Mongo selling the shit out of the scene right now.
Back
woman
in the day,
screaming.
Back in the day, like, you would get bigger ratings, but that's because like a lot of houses, like people would go to other people's houses to get something. Now it was becoming a little bit more common. So cable ratings to break 2 million was like, that's a great show. That's a solid rating, which Raw had been doing for years. And when Nitro came in, they were kind of hovering in the 2s and stuff and 1.9s, which is super solid. 4 million people watch them. That can't be understated. They were changing everything. They were changing cable ratings back here. Pro wrestling was changing cable ratings, much like they did for Turner back in the day when Turner was trying to get everything afloat and he relied on wrestling to bring him solid ratings. Once again, wrestling is like setting this standard where other shows were like, how the fuck are they getting 4 million people to watch this shit? How the fuck is that happening? NWO, baby. NWO. And lawn darts.
Crazy stuff. Leading into the next pay-per-view, it would be determined that Team NWO would face Flair, Anderson, Luger, and Sting in a War Games match at Fall Brawl on September 16th. But on September 9th edition of Nitro, it was appearing that Sting was breaking off. He was turning his back on the WCW to become their newest member and be that fourth person on the NWO War Games team. But then at Fall Brawl of 96, Sting would appear before Luger, Flair, and Anderson in an interview before their match, claiming it was not him who joined the NWO, but an imposter Sting. The other three didn't believe him, but Sting vowed to be their partner in War Games to prove that he was telling the truth.
Can I say another fucking awesome angle? Like, I remember I worked full time here and I came home and I turned Nitro on and I was just super tired from like a long day and a long work week. I was actually starting to doze off on my couch, not because Nitro was boring, but I was just super fucking tired. I remember kind of like coming out of it and seeing Sting get out of a limo and start beating up Lex Luger. And I was like, what the fuck? I stood up in my living room and I was like, did fucking Sting just turn? Is he an NWO guy? And like Dave said, like the real Sting would come out in Super Brawl or Fall Brawl and be like, it wasn't me. That gimmick, and that was to end Nitro. It was like the last 30 seconds of Nitro. Limo pulls up. Luger was waiting for something. I don't remember why Luger was outside. I remember it was raining outside. And Luger came outside, and the limo pulls up. He's like, who's in there? And he's trying to look in the tinted window or whatever, which never works, by the way, because that's why they're tinted. And so he just like looks in the window, and he's like, what? And the door opens, and Sting gets out and attacks Luger. And then all the other NWO members get out and just kind of, applaud him or whatever. And I was like, oh my God. And then they went off the air. And I was like, what the fuck did Sting? So this great cliffhanger television, they're pushing this angle and everything's working. Everything's firing for WCW at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is so interesting because when the time comes for the match and the NWO's fourth member to come out, Sting would make his way down and align himself with the NWO. But then when the fourth member of the WCW would come out, Sting, the real Sting, came out and attacked all members of the NWO and laid out the fake Sting. But instead of staying in the match with his partners, he faced them, flipped them all off, and said, was that good enough for you? And he left them at a disadvantage 3-4. obviously the NWO would win that match on advantage. The next night on Nitro, Sting would come to the ring and cut a promo that would forever change his career and began a 15-month period of him going solo, watching from the rafters, and he would proclaim himself a free agent because WCW didn't believe in him. He would said he would pop up when they least expected it. This whole phenomenon with Sting was great until the end, but we'll get to that
In the
soon.
last 12 months.
The night after.
Yeah.
What's he getting to? I don't like the
And
I don't like the
carried
tone
the
of this at all.
WCW banner. And I have given my blood, my sweat, and my tears for WCW.
I don't like where this is going.
So for all of those fans out there and all those wrestlers and people that never doubted the Stinger, I'll stand by you if you stand by me. But for all of the people, all of the commentators, all of the wrestlers, and all of the best friends who did doubt me, you can stick it. From now on, I consider myself a free agent. But that doesn't mean that you won't see the Stinger from time to time. I'm gonna pop in when you least expect it.
Was it really 15 months before he wrestled and then before he wrestled again at that Starrcade?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That's so, wow. Okay.
Yeah, right. Like,
wow.
That's another ballsy move. Like,
yeah,
you know, what do you say about Sting? He's tied into this huge. You needed that eventual babyface that would save WCW and thrash the evil Hulk Hogan. And you know, we'll talk later again how they fucked this shit up. Yeah. But I mean, like this beginning was like awesome, and then you would see Sting. I think he was like you didn't see him for like 2 weeks, and then you would see him up in the rafters with a black trench coat, white face paint, almost like a mime. And it was, and he hadn't grown his hair out long yet. It was just like jaw length, you know, and like, so after, obviously over the months, it would get longer and longer. So this is where Crow Sting started because of the NWO angle, because they were positioning Sting here. To Cuz's point earlier, it wouldn't have worked the other way around, right? You needed that Hogan to push the NWO over the top, and then you need that. Where's that hero? It's going to be Sting, who says, fuck you, WCW, because you didn't believe me. But you know that his heart is WCW. You know it. It just took 15 months for, you know, people to want to watch every week. And they did some cool shit. Sting came down from the rafters, and we'll get into that. And it's just kind of, this really began everything. I mean, this whole 3 or 4 month period to end 96 after the NWO started, everything was so beautiful. The lawn dart thing, the realism of the ambulances, the Sting going, fuck you. You guys don't believe me? Well, fuck you then. I've been here for years. I've been the heart of WCW. Everyone else has left. I've stayed. And you doubt me? You think I'm the guy that's going to jump ship to the NWO?
Yeah.
Fuck you guys. That's bullshit. So you felt for Sting. You were like, yeah, right. Like, how could they doubt you, Sting? Like, you're the guy, you're the man, you know, like, so it worked out perfect. It was all beautiful.
A little side note, after Fall Brawl, the NWO would introduce their sixth member known as Six, or Sean Waltman, or 123 Kid, who was formerly with the WWF. Not a big deal, but a big deal, obviously. Right. So next segment, we kind of get Roddy Piper into the picture at Halloween Havoc 96. 2 major happenings took place. Hall and Nash would defeat Harlem Heat to win the WCW tag team titles, and Roddy Piper would surprise everyone and confront Hogan after his match against Randy Savage. The last time Piper was in an NWA WCW anything was in '83. So obviously WCW was trying to bring in big name faces to provide basically feeders to Hogan, right? Piper aligned himself with WCW and vowed to eliminate Hogan and the NWO.
We were there live, right, Craig? Huh?
The Havoc, right? One of 4 years you guys went in a row?
Yeah. This was the very first year. This was the very first year.
I was going to say it was the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were all shocked. Like, they did the Hogan and Savage match. And then you don't really know back then when the pay-per-view went off the air. It was like just the after the match stuff. And then this bagpipe music hit and everybody was like, what? And then Piper walked out. The place went nuts. Like, it was that you felt it. Now they're getting Piper in. I know people will roll their eyes now and be like, "Oh, Piper," but he still had some gas left in the tank here. Yeah, back then it was like Roddy Piper walking in confronting Hulk Hogan. So now they're really playing off old WWF shit, right? Before they sued them because they're like, Hall and Nash are trying to remind us of Diesel and Ramon. Here they were unabashedly going just like, Hulk and Piper have a history from back then in the WWF. Like, it was just they would even mention every now and then, they were on the first WrestleMania together. Like, so it was just like, now WCW's just sticking it to the WWF, just going like, and we're going to reference this shit too now. Like, it was awesome. Yeah. And being there live, seeing Piper confront Hulk was surreal. I mean, the
gloves are all the way off at this point for sure. Yeah. And this is where it gets really interesting. On November 18th sorry, go ahead, Craig.
I was just going to say, like, so what's the absolute apex, the peak of NWO popularity? When did you as a fan, or looking back now, like, at what point did you start to see its first, like, crest, like, or
probably
I'm
probably in 97, when every week, like you joked about earlier, it would just be an NWO run-in and end in a DQ, and they would go off the air. It was sometime in 97 where that became commonplace for months, for week after week. It would be like just, and here come the NWO, and the whole ring would fill up, and there you go, and DQ or a no contest or whatever. I want to say, honestly, looking back, and even if as a fan, if I was being honest, mid 97, I was like, you guys are doing the same shit over and over again. Like, what's the payoff? What's the payoff?
So even the first Sold Out would, like, still good.
Well, we'll get to that. No, we'll get to that. But even as a fan, I don't think I shit on Sold Out yet. I knew it was a bad show, but I didn't see it as a chink in the armor yet. Looking back, that was the first inkling of, it's big, and it's the biggest thing WCW's ever done, but it's not as big as you think it is. So do not try to label pay-per-views after it. Do not try to make your own, you know what I mean? Like, it's.
But before we get to that, this is where things get really interesting. In November of 96, Nitro show, Bischoff actually claimed that Piper was not returning his calls in regards to his contract, and he just wasn't available. He tried multiple times. Bischoff even claimed he drove to Piper's ranch home, but Piper didn't answer the door. So they thought that they're just trying to make it seem like Piper's not interested and he's blowing everything off, right? He's not really the guy he is. So at the end of the show, Bischoff takes to the center of the ring and says that since he's MIA, we couldn't issue a contract where he can grant him a match at Hogan at Starrcade. But then Piper's music hits. Bischoff looks very shocked. And then Piper would dispute Bischoff's claims that he never received phone calls. And he would say, I think Jess has talked about this before, like, well, you've been in my ranch. What does my gate look like? What does my yard look like? You called my number. What's my number? Right. And you can see Bischoff is stammering the entire time. And basically at that point, Piper grabbed Bischoff and just called him a piece of shit. All members of NWO hit the ring and held Piper back. And that's when Hogan and Bischoff embrace. And you realize the whole time, the brainchild behind everything, and why NWO had been so strong is because Bischoff allowed the whole thing to happen.
First class coach, what was it? First class coach, how'd you fly? What airline? What airline? Be darned. And you come on up to my ranch. When you come up to my ranch, tell me, is the road crooked or is the road straight? Tell me, is the road crooked? I don't remember.
I went back and watched that 2 days ago, that segment, because I always remembered watching that live and loving it. And if you go back and watch it again, it's fucking awesome. And Piper literally does. He grabs him, and it's not Piper's the shock of the word. Here. It's that Piper's pissed.
He's so good.
Piper grabs him, and Piper's calling him a liar, and he grabs him, and he's like, what's my gate look like? What's my road? Is it straight or is it crooked? And he goes, come here, you piece of shit. And he grabs him by the collar, like he was going to fuck, and then NWO comes out, and you realize, oh my God, and Bischoff, and Hogan hug, and then Bischoff gets this cocky look on his face, and that started way before the Mr. McMahon character. That started the evil owner character, and he would become Eazy-E, he would become whatever else you want to say. this segment it gives me goosebumps talking about it. I watched it a couple days ago. It was incredible. And like the crowd when Piper came out and surprised Bischoff went nuts. Like it's just Nitro was getting so fucking hot here. And every time the NWO would come in, they would shower the ring with trash. And like it was just this real. You knew at this point that obviously it's all, part of the storyline, but like it still felt so real and so incredible. This is such a great landmark moment.
Now
Bischoff.
everybody knows who's working for who. Hogan saying that.
Now that everybody realizes who everybody's working for, I mean, my God, this guy here was the foundation of the WCW. Now he works for the NWO.
Great shit.
Watch him,
brother.
And that's why I asked that question earlier, because Jess, we've never had this conversation, but I knew where we were going, and I was kind of looking ahead. I was like, there's a lot of people that say like, and I can't put my head back what I first felt when I watched that on television. And I want to say I was still completely plugged in, unbelievable. I mean, I read back the notes now as an old man, and I'd be like, well, Bischoff then said he was aware the whole time and blah, blah, and poking holes in it. I honestly don't remember whether I was still fully bought in on Bischoff, but I think listening to you, like, I think we absolutely were. I think all just readings, like, I'd like to think I was smarter than I was back in the day, and this is when it fell apart, but it wasn't. We totally bought into Bischoff, and it was still so cool at the time.
Now
they carried it for a while.
Yeah, they could still do no wrong at this point. They were on fire.
Yeah. I don't see it in the notes, but I mean, are we going to talk about this right here?
Well, that's like 2 years later.
Well, well, keep going then. Keep going on your.
It's still worth talking about.
Yeah, nobody can see this video right now, so Dave, please God, go.
WCW was on fire in the ratings. They were routinely beating WWF by almost a full rating point, 1 million viewers every single week. For the first time since the 80s explosion, another company besides the WWF was the number one wrestling company in the United States, and quite frankly, the world, when it comes to ratings at this point in time. But the first reality check for WCW came in January of 97. Bischoff felt the NWO was such a hit, they could brand an entire pay-per-view after it. So the NWO sold-out pay-per-view took place in Cedar Rapids.
Read it like I wrote it.
Fucking Cedar Rapids, Iowa, on January 25th of 1997. The event was designed to not feel anything like a WCW event. The arena was primarily decorated with black and white colors, shot with a more gritty feel. The card was all NWO members versus WCW stars. The event only drew a .47 buy rate, which was 170,000 buys. This was easily WCW's lowest pay-per-view buy rate since before the NWO was formed, and would end up being the lowest pay-per-view buy rate of the entire year of 97. To compare, Super Brawl next month posted a 0.75 buy rate with 275,000 buys. To gear up for sold out, several mid-card wrestlers were added to the NWO. Wrestlers such as Big Bubba Rogers, Michael Wall Street, IRS. That's who Michael Wall Street is. Buff Bagwell, Masahiro Kono, and Scott Norton.
Chono, Dave. God damn it, he's a goddamn legend.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. So Scott Norton became part of the Renegade faction, and this completely watered down the group. This is where things.
Now, Craig, it's funny that you say. I don't think I saw it here, but obviously, looking back, this was the first arrogant decision that Bischoff made behind the scenes of like, well, let's just do our own branded pay-per-view. We can do it. The gimmick was 5 months old, 6 months old at this point, and you want to fucking name an entire pay-per-view after it. And like Bischoff's mind back here, he was known in interviews as saying like, I want to try to maybe split the brands eventually and have an NWO show and a WCW show. So it's funny how the brand split, we talk about now, has never really worked out. Back here, Bischoff was like gunning towards that already, like 5 months into it. And it's like, holy shit. Like I look back now and I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes, Tiger. Like, Jesus Christ. Like you just had this thing for 5 months. Your child's only 5 months old. Like it can't even walk yet. Like just calm down. Yeah. It's doing amazing things, but dude, like he just jumped the gun here, like really quickly to have a branded pay-per-view. I remember watching the show back in the day when it aired live, and it was fucking awful. And it was just they didn't get the point across they were trying to get. And like, it just did not gel. It didn't work. I remember specifically watching it like by the second or third match going, this shit sucks. Like, this is not good. And what they were trying for is not.
They were trying a lot of things. They even had allowed Shono to wear the NWO colors in New Japan, recruit the Great Muna under the NWO umbrella for Japan. And this was their first pay-per-view in WCW ever held in January. And it was on a Saturday. So, you can argue that's why the rates weren't as high. But at the end of the day, we know the product wasn't all that great either. So in the spring and summer, they NWO, WCW just continue their dominance over Vince and the WWF. Savage even joins the NWO. I'm telling you, in my mind, when I watch this, I'm like, who's not part of the NWO? I just have to say that.
I was gonna say, so just taking a quick step back, like the two things about Sold Out, which things begin to like smell a bit funny, is I love Big Boss Man. I love I respect him so much, but when Big Bubba Rogers joins Buff Bagwell and you take him into your group, things aren't at the very top they could be. And I hate to say it.
It's like eventually who you're saying, like who are you gonna fight?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And that's like the red light. Like those two guys, the mid carders and then
the horse, like they. Yeah. Bischoff in his mind's like, I want to have a separate brand. Let's just get people now. Instead of building characters over a year to become part of the NWO, you might accept the NWO having 10 members if they take a year to a year and a half to make it happen and explain why these people are joining. Instead, 5 months later, they're like, oh, fuck, we're going to do a pay-per-view with NWO. We need members.
And let's not forget to get fucking Conan in there while we're
well, that's later, too. Yeah.
No, it's all there. I was saying, it's like fucking Savage, attacks Piper so Hogan can be and everything. Conan's added to the group. And then you get to the political bullshit, right?
And by the way, I didn't realize it was that payper-view was on a Saturday in January, in Super Bowl January, and playoff football Saturday and Sunday. Like, no wonder it didn't do well. Like, I always thought when I was reading ahead, that's completely fine. Not NWO or Bischoff's fault for that.
Yeah, that's why I wrote in their defense, like, it ended up like well, to be devil's advocate, it is their fault. They planned it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they knew,
I guess if they book it
what
for
January
them,
was.
That's
no
that's
secret.
planned months in advance. Yeah.
And up until then, they hadn't had a pay-per-view in January. It was always a Clash of Champions. WWF, yes, obviously had the Royal Rumble at this point, but they kept it on a Sunday, and they were WWF at this point, so they had the name value. But yeah, like their first pay-per-view, they want to make it on Saturday, like Craig said, during playoff football, which is always on a Saturday, and then they want to, which is an odd day as well, because most television programs stay away from Saturdays because that's the day, assuming that everybody works the regular Monday through Friday 9 to 5 schedule. Saturday's a weekend, so Saturdays when you go out and you get hookers and you do blow, and then like you and then on
what
Sunday,
was that, Jess? Jess, can you go ahead and back? What'd you?
I thought so. That's what everybody did. I had no idea that some people didn't do that. So, but on Sundays, they would start a pay-per-view at 5 on Sundays, which all families were going to get together because they had work or school the next day. So people were more inclined to put down the money and watch a wrestling pay-per-view from 5 to 8 or whatever on a Sunday. So I always thought, and they're not the only company to experiment with a non-Sunday pay-per-view, but at the same time, I just thought it was funny that he just thought it was so big already at this point. Bischoff's like, fuck it, put it on a Saturday and we'll do this. And it's like, what? Like he already like, looking back to Craig's question earlier, at the time, I don't think I thought much of it. I just knew the show sucked. But looking back now, I'm like, like he was already full of his own shit. The
hubris is beginning. He's starting at a little hubris,
He's getting his head's getting big. Before his balls were big when he did the whole do you work for WWF? Now his head's getting big.
He's not the only one because we got a lot of big heads here. This is where political moves and tension began with WCW's top players. Hogan and Nash were just not in agreement creatively. Nash even felt that Hogan was just not around enough and definitely out of touch. But WCW pulls off a major move for Bash at the Beach in '97. So we're talking a year later after the big third man move. They get Dennis Rodman to tag with Hollywood Hogan and take on Lex Luger with the Giant in the main event because obviously the Giant has already moved back. I mean, okay, whatever. There's a lot of stuff there we miss, I guess, but this created huge mainstream media coverage, which further cemented WCW's place as the cool promotion. Was it good? Not really. But Dennis Rodman coming up, who's just such the black sheep of the NBA, joining that faction at a time is absolutely perfect for ratings.
Right you are, Dave. We hope you've enjoyed the Legacy of the NWO Part 1. Stay tuned for Part 2. And don't forget, you can listen to Part 1 and Part 2 on all major platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Podcast, and iHeartRadio. This has been our wrestling podcast. Thank you, everybody.